First of all, thanks for doing it, and great to have you back on the show with us again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You guys have been touring for this Incubus 8th record, 8 it's called. Some far-flung places. I've been looking at your, highlights on your Facebook page where I saw Pretoria, Cape Town, Tokyo, Osaka, Manila, Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, Singapore. Even saw something where it looked like you guys were in India. Talk about some of these. I mean, it's an amazing series of destinations.
Yeah, we've actually we already toured through the States last year or so, the past summer, and touring for us has become over the years like a kind of like the main thing that we do. We have been touring all over the world for the majority of our career. So most of the places we went back to on this trip were return visits, but there were a couple of new places that were definitely standouts. So South Africa was the first time we'd ever been there, which was incredible. We got to actually be in South Africa for like 9 or 10 days. So it was extremely memorable for so many reasons. But then we also got to visit India for the first time, which was also incredibly memorable. But there's also this sense of like there's a bittersweet occasion to it as well, because I've been dreaming of visiting India my entire life, and I finally get to go and we get to make music there, and it's incredible. But we're there for like 3 days, so we go halfway around the world to visit some place for like 3 days. That being said, though, it's been an incredible trip, and today we're in Melbourne, Australia.
Right. No, I know. And I know you've been in, last time that we talked, which was like 7 years ago, you had just been through some of these interesting places which you have returned to, as you were noting. And when you talk about it being bittersweet, I know as a socially conscious person who really cares about the environment and other living creatures, it must also be difficult when you go to either of those places, actually, especially, I would think, in India, you have a situation where a third of all people there don't even use a restroom on an indoor basis, and the poverty is of an epic proportion that most Americans can't even imagine, living in a level of poverty which in the United States would count as about the worst. And then you think about South Africa, one of the most epic poaching crises anywhere on Earth, the rhinoceros, the country that's the number one custodian for one of the oldest animals on the planet, which is getting wiped out for its horn for citizens of China and Vietnam. When you're in these places, do those issues ever touch you when you think about the struggles that are going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't ignore it. There's no way to not see these things, even just driving around for an afternoon, where we were in India. You see a way of life that's just it's vastly different than what we know as what most Americans know. But there's something really interesting about it too, from perhaps a different perspective, in that you see what by American standards or by Western standards would be, debilitating poverty. But then you see some of the most wonderfully warm and kind and welcoming people that you've ever encountered. So there are some lessons there, I think. It's one of those things, and this goes into what I was saying before, like it's such a shame to travel halfway around the world to see a place for 3 days. You can't really get a sense of anything in 3 days, especially with a culture as old as India. So we joke about it all the time. It's a little bit like our lives are like these like snapshots or Polaroids of these places. But the cool thing about that is that we get to take a snapshot and come back to these places later, kind of when we're not touring, and visit them. And I'm so excited to do that, particularly with India and with South Africa, or Africa in general. I would love to spend a couple of years exploring that continent, because there's just so much there. And we drift through these places under such privileged conditions. We go there to make music, and people, they're so kind to us and so welcoming. They really, roll out the star treatment for us, which is so appreciated. But then that gives us kind of this interesting opportunity to do some cool work here and there as well. Like when we were in South Africa, we had a couple of days off, and we ended up working with the Pilanesberg Wildlife Trust and went into the Pilanesberg National Park, and we tagged along with this team of conservationists who are out there protecting the rhinoceros from poachers. And we got to see like what a day in the life looks like with the work that they're doing. And it was fascinating and educational, but also kind of mind-blowing. Like you think of a conservationist and you don't think of someone that is quite literally putting their life on the line. Because in a lot of ways, it's an incredibly dangerous job to do. So yeah, it's interesting. Being in a band has put us in some incredibly interesting and fortuitous occasions. Not the least of which is that we just get to visit incredible places, but they also occasionally get to see some amazing work being done.
And you get to also, you were talking about going back to some of these places after, when you get some time, you have this thing that you do, or at least you were doing for a while, the Make Yourself Foundation, which seems like a logical way that you could reverse some of the good energy you're getting from the nice people that you've met and the humble people, as you were describing, and maybe go back into both of those places, India and South Africa, and tap this foundation. Why don't you explain to people listening what that foundation is and perhaps ways that it can assist people, and it has?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Incubus started the Make Yourself Foundation as a nonprofit in, I think it was 2003. So for the past 15 or so years, we've been using band-related activities and tour-related activities to raise money and raise awareness for lots of different other not-for-profit organizations. So we essentially do like a meet and greet every show night, and we meet. It's usually anywhere from like 60 to 100 people, and then each of those people, they bid on concert ticket packages through eBay, and then all of the money goes to grants that we end up giving at the end of each touring year. So it's been a really busy year for us on tour, so we've been able to raise a lot of money this year. And the closest, well, not the closest, but the newest thing that we're organizing to work on is some way to assist the March for Our Lives at the end of this month, to do anything that we can to assist these kids that are really going to change the world. I'm sure being there in the States, you just can't ignore the stuff that's been happening. So
it's mind-boggling.
You can't get away from it. But what's amazing about it is that you're seeing this generation of young people rise up and actually act like adults when no one else in the room is acting like adults. So we're going to do everything in our power to assist them. But that's just one example of what our charity has been able to do and attempts to do, is just to assist other good works that are happening in the world.
And people can look for it, Make Yourself Foundation. It's online and operates sort of in the way that the United Way operates, which is similarly gathering funds and then putting it into nonprofits that are doing good things. And you mentioned one there in South Africa. Hopefully you'll get a chance. Maybe you could even write a song about the rhinos or your experience and tap into that and give them some visibility. That's something we talk about a lot in Hawaii, because the entire crisis is centered around consumers in just 2 Asia-Pacific countries. And because we're right on the front lines of the Asia-Pacific, we are constantly aware of the fact that without China and Vietnam and consumers there buying this stuff, there wouldn't be a rhino poaching crisis, because people in Africa don't buy rhino horn. And it's just great to know that there is an aspect of your organization like that. When you also think about touching people in these places, the demographics are so different than the ones you're going to have when you're loaded into the Republic. It's a whole different kind of crew that'll come out. When you're playing in these countries, Brandon, and it's Brandon Boyd from Incubus that we're talking to today, or is there a different, can you point to when you look out in the audience, like, wow, it's so different when we do a gig in Kuala Lumpur, and the way that maybe the audience behaves, or that you can cross the barrier of language and everything to connect with them with your music?
Yeah, one of the reasons that we've consistently gone back to so many of these places around the world is there's a real sort of a desire for our band to go to these places. So we basically go where we're wanted. But it's what's been amazing is to witness, like you just said, a culture who's many of them, their first language is not even English. And I've talked to so many of them over the years, and so many people in these places have learned to speak English through Western music, which to me is super cool.
Totally.
I mean, it's such a unique blessing to be able to be someone's window into a different part of the world. So, it's a trip to see an audience filled with, young people, and half the audience are wearing like traditional hijab, but they're like singing at the top of their lungs, and then if you catch them dancing, they're wearing like Converse sneakers. You know what I mean? So one of the things that really has stuck out to me over the years, more than anything, is less the differences between us around the world, and more like, wow, there's really not that much that separates us.
Right.
The things that separate us the most are cultural things. But those, once you actually get there, they don't seem as vast a divide as you would imagine. So that's been honestly the coolest thing about traveling around the world for the past 20-something years, is realizing how connected we all really are at the most basic levels. Like, we all want a good meal, we want a safe place to sleep, we want to listen to music, we want to dance, we want to make families, we want to do good work. And the rest of it gets kind of lost in like a political muck that we get kind of distracted by. It's a real blessing to be able to travel around making music, because it reminds me how deeply connected we are on the most basic levels.
Right. No, it's an important thing, and there's so many more things we have in common than the things that we don't have in common, and it's very easy to be separated. I just think it's kind of cool when you're talking about, they don't even speak the same language thing, and then you got the aspect of it that we haven't mentioned is the record, and again, it's 8 is the latest album, and when it comes to it being received in some of these places, and we've been rattling off some South Africa and India, and there's Japan in there as well, and Indonesia. And when I think about the access to the music there, like, for example, where are they hearing the new stuff? Do they have rock stations there that your fans are picking it up on, or how do people get aware of the music?
I think that some of the places do still have like terrestrial radio that will play an alternative rock band like Incubus, but for the most part, I'm just going to take a wild guess and say it's just the internet. Any place that there's internet access, they're voraciously consuming.
And do they buy the records?
Of all kinds.
Do they buy like a CD, or is it downloads, or what are they doing?
I think most of it's streaming these days. We do occasionally still like autograph a physical CD. I even autographed a cassette tape on this trip, which all of us, when we touched it, we all looked at each other and we were like, what is happening? It's instant time warp in our hands, where there's still actually tape in the thing. It's incredible. That's what I grew up on. So it was an amazing moment of nostalgia to hold that, but also see like our most current album in that format.
Right.
But I think most of it's streaming.
That's just incredible, because people don't buy records, huh? Can you think of the last record you bought, Brandon, where you actually bought a record, a whole album, and like, oh, I can't wait to get
physical album?
Yeah.
I don't actually I do remember, but it was not like a new thing. I was at Amoeba Music in Los Angeles, and I bought the score and the soundtrack to Evil Dead Part 2, and mostly because I'm just like a rabid fan of that movie series, but also the album artwork was incredible. But I bought it on vinyl. That's one place that a lot of people are still buying physical copies. Like if you're like a super fan of something, like you go out and you get the vinyl.
It's crazy though, huh? Because the sales, it just isn't what it was. So you don't buy CDs, huh? You're not getting a new record on a CD.
No. But I do still buy albums on iTunes and things like that. If I really I've been really obsessed with the new Laura Marling CD.
Huh.
Not CD, album. See, it's ingrained in my language still too. But I bought it on iTunes and I've been listening to it, through my phone. So I still do that, but I think most people do not.
It's just crazy, huh? Yeah, just the weird. I had Roger McGuinn of the Byrds in the studio not the other day, but recently, and he was like, "Yeah, if I want to hear something, I just dial." You remember the Byrds, right, Brandon? The Byrds, turn.
Absolutely.
So he's telling me, when I want to hear a new record, I just go on YouTube and I'll just play the song, It's like,
yeah, that's what most people do.
it's incredible. It's an incredible. And
Yeah.
before we wrap it up, since we're talking about albums, and you've been around a very long time, made a lot of people happy with your music, which is very special, and very special voice also that you have. It's adds a lot of emotion and feeling to things. What was the first record you bought when you were buying records when you were a little kid? Maybe even somebody bought it for you when you first got your first album of some kind.
It was a real moment for me when I actually went to this place called Warehouse Music in the San Fernando Valley and bought. I made the choice to buy the very first record I was going to buy. I wasn't thinking about it like that then. I wasn't like, I'm about to buy my first album. It was more that I had saved up my own money from chores, and I went and made a decision. But I bought The Cure, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me.
Wow.
And I was obsessed with that record. Before that, I got a lot of like hand-me-down mixtapes and like dubbed records from my older brother and my older sister. And it was all over the board, from like 80s synth pop to hair metal and things like that. But the first choice that I made on my own was The Cure, and I still stand behind it. It's a great record.
Yeah, it's nice when we can hang on to our first. My first one was given to me, but I think I wanted it, and it was in December of 1976 when Rock and Roll Over from Kiss was being advertised heavily on television, and I guess I wanted a copy, and I got it. And like you, I can still listen to it, the whole record, all the way
That's
through.
awesome.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, they hold very special memories, that first time that we choose something on our own. It's pretty amazing.
It's powerful. It's very powerful. It's Brandon Boyd, Incubus, and they're coming to town, pair of shows. Really thrilled that they're coming back into Honolulu. And maybe we'll get to touch base with you if you're not super busy when you're here, but we really appreciate you taking some time for us today. Hope this wasn't a hassle.
Not at all, man. It's my pleasure. I'll look forward to chatting with you again soon, man. Aloha, this is Brandon Boyd from Incubus, and we are right where we're supposed to be. We are tuned in to our friend Dave Lawrence. Aloha, Dave. It's Hawaii Public Radio and all things considered, but we can't do it without you. Please make a pledge now and become a member, and thank you for your support.
Flawless. It's like you've done these for 20 years or something like that. So, I'll reach out to your people.
Yeah, man, it'd be my pleasure. I'll make sure to relay that. I'd love to chat with you again while we're there.
Travel safe. God bless. Enjoy yourself in Melbourne.
Thanks so much, man. Talk to you soon.